Speaker recognizes Representative Ellison.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I now find myself in the unenviable position of having to follow the guy with the most jokes. It's not an easy spot to be in, but I'll do my best. I've got 6 years to reminisce about, so let's go. When I first came to Lansing, I arrived here with a job to do. Having served over 30 years in local government, I saw firsthand how the broken municipal finance system at the state level was hurting our local communities. I knew that the only way things would change if people with my type of experience and love of local government were willing to champion critical issues such as revenue sharing, local control, and municipal finance. In order to help local governments be successful, see small businesses thrive, and protect our local communities, I needed to be part of the solution. So I ran for state representative and won. So here I was in Lansing, ready to change the world. I quickly joined other legislators who were equally devoted to protecting our local governments and communities. I want to thank Ben Frederick for being such a gracious partner in founding and being co-chair of the first ever municipal caucus. Thanks to the leadership of our friends at the MML, especially Chris Hackbarth, John Lamacchia, and Jen Rignertick, we tackled some key issues, educated so many of our colleagues, and while some of the most major issues still need to be addressed, we made significant strides in moving the needle and stabilizing our local governments. So, I came up here to be the local government guy, and I did that. Yet along the way, I've come to discover this old local government guy has become known for a few other things as well. My interns would say, I'm the coffee guy. I had the honor of having many wonderful interns over the years: Lindsay, Nitty, Claire, Joe, Megan, Martha, Sierra, Jack, Elizabeth, Sora, DeMarco, Stephen, Benjamin, Alexander, and Eva. While they're off doing great things around the country and the world, I know they will always remember all the great ideas start over the best made pot of coffee. I'm also known as the animal guy. As most of you know, the Detroit Zoo resides in my district in the city of Royal Oak, and I took the stewardship of animals very seriously by bringing together the Animal Caucus of legislators to focus on issues such as anti-breed discrimination legislation and prohibiting the private ownership of primates. I'd like to thank Kirk Proffitt for his guidance and wisdom in all things at the Detroit Zoo. And John Lindley for being the best ringleader, and when BSL Circus came to town, even the loyalists who came to my office to discuss the most non-animal related issue imaginable might still be regaled with stories of a lesser-known zoo in Royal Oak, which is actually located in my home with over 25 pets, including a pig and a goose and a snake. I was also the fish guy, known by many for my giant fish sculpture that graced my 7th floor window facing out on the Capitol building. And let's not forget that I'm the car guy. As the former chairman of the Woodward Dream Cruise that runs through my district each August, I was ever so proud the day that Joe Biden came to town for a rally and stopped to check out my recently restored antique classic Ford. What a ride it's been these last 6 years. There have certainly been many ups and downs. Some of the most memorable include the Green Ooze incident of 2019 in Madison Heights, and of course, the COVID-19 pandemic and the shift to remote work. However, some of the moments and work I'm most proud of include creating and chairing the first ever Oakland County Democratic Caucus, passing cystic fibrosis resolution, and being an advocate for animals welfare, and local government. Using my experience and expertise in local government to serve as minority vice chair of the Local Government Municipal Finance Committee, well, that's a mouthful, as well as serving on the tax policy, health policy, and families, children, and seniors committees. If somebody had asked me to predict what bill I'd end up being the most proud of, never would I have thought it would be, of all things, a boring tax policy bill dealing with one small nuanced section of the personal property tax. Yet working with Adrian Cazal through the 4 agonizing years that this simple yet seemingly impossible to pass House Bill 4833 took to complete. I learned more about legislative process and what it takes to get a good idea across the finish line. It took a lot of education and understanding across a broad range of stakeholders. It took a strong bipartisan partner in Mark Tisdale to stand with me. It took the willingness of a former committed chair to bring everything to the table, and it took the courage of everyone at the table to keep their cool and work towards a reasonable solution. It's amazing what can be accomplished when egos are required to be checked at the door. Thank you to Chair Julie Calley and again our friends at Municipal League for their support. Perhaps what I'll remember and carry with me the most throughout my time in the House are the relationship and connections I've made here, including several staff members, to which I owe a huge debt of gratitude. My first legislative director, Dan Opsommer, who showed me the ropes when I first arrived in Lansing. Hannah Chapman, who made sure that every constituent received top-notch assistance and support. Madeline Abernathy, who led the charge in my office to resolve over 1,000 constituent UIA issues during the pandemic. And finally, Heidi Zabek, who was the heart and soul of Team Ellison. She stuck with me throughout my entire career here in the House, and I miss her dramatically. I'd also like to recognize several colleagues who have enhanced my experience in the House for many reasons. Tommy Brand. Tommy, I'm impressed with your drive to get things done. You're always going above and beyond, either here or at the restaurant. But as much as anything, I admire your advocacy for animals. Thank you. Julie Brixey. Julie always keep me focused. Jim, you're straight. You're going off the path. This is what we need to do. She was always the touchstone, always bring me back in focus. So I was being a good Democrat I was trying to be. Julie Calley. Julie's now over here. I keep losing where she goes. There she is. I have gotten to know Julie over the past year as I was the vice chair of the local government committee. And I've told her numerous times, I wish I had met you earlier. We could have been dynamic together. We work so well together to get things done. And I really appreciate your stewardship and your ability to run a calm, nuanced meeting so we can be productive. That's what happens. Cara Clemente, one of the original gang of 5 behind me. Cara's always been there with good pat on the back. Jim, you're doing great, that kind of stuff, good of encouragement. I've already mentioned Ben Frederick. Ben and I have probably known each other the full 6 years. We met early on in television, whatever Scubik's television show is. We did that together about local government getting into the state. And Ben shares the privilege of being a mayor of his hometown. Here comes a surprise, Gary Howell. Not really a surprise because Gary is a great guy. Gary has a unique talent that so many more people should have, and that is be able to tell somebody that they're wrong without making them mad. And Gary could do that to me quite a bit. David the Grand. He's the intelligence of this little table slot here. We always turn to David and say, what would you do? Well, as I pull my mask off and do it, David always gives us words of wisdom and send us on our way. Leader Lisinski, Donna, thank you for everything that you did. You took off a big chunk this year, and you did a good job with it. Mari Manugian, good friend of mine from close to the district. We've become strong friends, in and out. We've even shared a drink or two together at the bar, so we're good. Mike Mueller, where's Mueller? He's over here, there he is. Thank you for the tour of the apple orchard, the tour of the wedding venue, more importantly, all the beers we had on your boat on the lake. I got to know Mike. Mike has been there with me when we sponsor cystic fibrosis recognition. I've been a strong advocate of CF for a while. Mike's sister is a CF patient, and together we have tried to make an impression on CF in the state of Michigan, and I think we've done it. Lori Pohutsky. I love you, Lori. Lori is one of those people that can relate to anybody, but more importantly, she's always asking, how's Momo? Momo is our pig, and Lori loves our pig, and I will continue to send you pictures of Momo so you can keep updated with his growth. Yusuf, man, going back to county commission, taking all this power, one of the most powerful voices that we had on this floor. When Yusuf was arguing a point, everybody heard it. Across the aisle, they heard it. Not only for its substance, but for its volume. Sowerby, Bill Sowerby. Bill and Bill has taught me everything I need to know about Macomb County, mostly don't get involved in it. And so for that, I appreciate it. John Cherry. part of our gang over here. I mean, you know, we're a group. John would always do a good job of keeping Sneller in line and also answering the phone when I'd have to page them, telling them we're voting so you can get back up here and put your cigarettes out. Mark Tisdale. I've already mentioned Mark. Mark's a recent addition to my friendship circle. We have found out in our conversations we've had each other, we share a lot in common. Even with our different designations of political allegiances, we have good common sense ideas about city, and that's what's going to make it work. And finally, my last recognition, Bo Matthew LaFave. Look at him, what's he going to say? Bo, you have always made it interesting. You've always made it fun. And away from the arguments we have on the floor about different bills, I consider you a friend. We're good guys. And finally, my best friend on the floor is this man right here. When I first met Tim, we discussed starting the Old Guys Caucus, because I think we could run it by ourselves. But Tim has always been there. He comes in with so much experience from his years as a staffer here in the House. And he's such a valuable asset to the House, to me. We're going to continue to be friends, and I'm still going to try to find him another dog. I got to have one somewhere. Yeah. Additionally, everybody else, I would like to thank our tremendous House and caucus staff, our clerks and committee staff, along with the House sergeant, and a special thanks to Speaker Wentworth. Jason, you did a good job, man. You're of the speakers I've served under, you're my favorite. Not because you were soft, because you weren't, but you seemed to have control of it, and you have a good feel for what was happening and what you needed to do. Didn't always agree with you, but you did it fairly. I would be remiss if I didn't express, however, how terribly disappointed I am with some of the most critical pieces of legislation that remained unfinished. Those of you who continue to serve in this chamber, you absolutely must address our municipal finance system. Setting aside the funds called for under existing formulas and placing them in a statutory revenue-sharing trust fund would be the most logical first step. Addressing the way that Prop A and Hadley crash into each other every time housing values drop leaves our locals unable to recover long after the economy has improved. It now falls upon you to fix it. A graduated income tax for the state would lower taxes for 95% of Michigan's taxpayers while creating a stable revenue stream that would fully fund our cities and infrastructure. It now falls upon you to fix it. And finally, please, you must address the issue of safe gun storage and responsible use of firearms. As a charter member of the Firearms Safety and Violence Prevention Caucus, and in keeping with my bipartisan philosophy when tackling tough issues, I joined again across the aisle to sponsor House Bill 6350 through 6353 to provide common sense incentives for safe storage and ownership of firearms. I hope that we still may have a window for their passage during these final couple session days, but I doubt it. But if they need to be introduced next year, then please do it. They're good bills. They're common sense bills. They shouldn't slight anybody. And for our children's sake, please check your egos at the door and co-sponsor some solid, necessary first step legislation that can make a direct positive impact. These complicated issues are sometimes so large that solutions seem too tough to tackle, especially in a period of hyper-partisanship and growing divisiveness. Perhaps the next legislature will be more willing to leave their egos at the door and work together more to tackle the critical fixes needed. Speaking of egos, sometimes even an issue as nonpartisan as a highway naming bill can be blocked for no other reason than one senator's ego. My advice to the next legislature, don't be a Tom Barrett and fling across a grieving firefighter's family just to pick a bone over one vote that I took that he disagreed with. In closing, let me give some advice to those who will follow us into this chamber. I think it's pretty normal to arrive in Lansing thinking you're going to single-handedly change the world. But after 6 years, I've realized that our best work gets done when we leave our egos at the door, again, because it's a lot easier to get the big things done when you remind yourself of who you're here to serve. Bipartisanship can only prevail when ego is set aside. Thank you.